Welcome back to Pop Goes the Stack, the show that unboxes emerging tech like Pandora's laptop. Curious, messy, and maybe full of bugs. I'm Lori MacVittie. Let's see what breaks today. Turns out it's the web we built. It's a tangle of HTML, JavaScript, CSS, APIs, and SEO quirks. And it's always been messy. But with AI agents and real-time apps now consuming the web as data, that mess is becoming a liability. So Firecrawl is one of the new tools reshaping how apps see and ingest web content. Joel has thoughts about this he'll share.
Sure.
It turns web pages into structured JSON, markdown, screenshots, you name it, anything you need for your agents to behave intelligently. So in this episode, we're going to dig into Firecrawl, how it works, whether it's good or not, and what it really means, the web being consumable for you, whether you're going to go play with this or not. To help us do that, we've got Joel Moses, of course.
Good to be here.
All right. And we brought back Aubrey King for fun. Hi, Aubrey.
Hey, how you guys doing?
Well, we'll see. I'll tell you after this episode how it went. So Firecrawl, Joel, you are most likely to dig into just about anything that I give you. So tell us about Firecrawl and why it's the best thing since PHP.
It's awesome.
Well, it is pretty. I will say the functionality of it is pretty awesome. All you got to do to think about the web and the relative lack of cleanliness that there is, and by cleanliness I mean for ingestion into other systems, is to think about the web pages that you made back in the late 90s for GeoCities or something like that, where everything was ad hoc and nothing was tagged properly, and there was a lot of content and it was spread around in unstructured ways. And to be honest, we haven't really come much farther from those days, except through the addition of things like structured APIs and different types of applications. But the web remains a largely textual, largely unstructured place. And that means that the problem with ingesting that stuff into an LLM is an LLM works best when it's given good data to process. And so if you're not feeding it with good stuff, you're going to get bad stuff out of it. That's effectively what it is.
So why are we letting it read the internet then? I mean, this is where
do you think the LLMs get all their knowledge sets from? And when you want to improve the responsiveness and you want to improve the newness of the information that your LLM talks to you about, you're going to need to feed better and more accurate and more up-to-date data into it. And you're going to have to take that unstructured, unclean, strangely formatted data, formatted in some way that makes it easily digestible by these LLM systems in order to make it work. And that's kind of what Firecrawl does. It browses a site for you and creates little elements that are well structured out of what it finds on those websites. So the website can be horribly crafted, and you can get actual good sampleable data out of it. It can have lots of different structural elements. It can have a navigation structure that's built on JavaScript, and it will navigate it for you and produce the structured data suitable for importing into an LLM system. It's pretty cool. And I believe the platform is built on open source. It's licensed under AGPL. And that's also good. It means that you can read, review, and create your own plugins for the system.
Okay, but why? So I don't know if we should dig into but why is it bad? Or why would you want this in the first place?
Well, I can tell you from my perspective, finding Firecrawl was like a gift. We've been working on these labs at Dev Central in our Git repository, which are just teaching AI kind of principles and basics, and then, some safeguards and things like that. But I was working on a particular lab that takes a YouTube page, looks at it as RSS, checks to see if there's new entries, and converts it to XML, then to be used with whatever else. Finding Firecrawl enabled me to really simplify that by just taking it and instead of converting it to XML, converting it directly to JSON. I was going to convert to XML, then convert to JSON, and it was kind of messy. So having something that really just goes into the native, most modern language that we've got seems like, JSON seems to be the standard. So I really, really thought it was fantastic from a use case perspective. Saved me a lot of time in coding.
Yeah. One of the cool aspects of it is you can do a lot of different things with it, including like a single page scrape, or you can tell it to crawl the entire website, including, like, even without using a sitemap, all the included pages, even if those pages are through navigation. You can give it a map of URLs in the site to do. You can search and scrape in a single call. It's really cool. You can do lots of different malleable things. Anybody who's ever worked with a site crawler knows that that functionality is hard enough. To combine it with something that boils the website down into contextual components you can load into an LLM, that's a pretty cool trick.
Yeah, but most of these sites and most of an enterprise is going to be delivering its site from a CMS. So all of the little constructs are in there. So it's taking structured data, it's turning it into an unstructured web page so that Firecrawl or GPT can turn it back into a structured page to understand it. It seems like we're inserting something in the middle here that maybe we don't need to. Like maybe the traditional user interface is just unnecessary. Let's just get rid of it, right? Everybody uses video and audio books and everything else today. Do we really need this? I mean, what are we doing with that?
When I
Didn't expect that question, did you? Do we even need websites anymore?
I think we definitely do. But the thing that made me, when you were saying that, what I was thinking about is the first time looking at this, I was reminded of another scanner that I used in red teaming stuff. W3AF is something that I've always used to kind of pick apart websites and make sure that I know where the leaks are going to be. Mm-hmm. You can kind of accomplish the same thing with Firecrawl. So it kind of scares me giving, some bad actors a new utility to really mess with. But you can do the job of W3AF, and it makes it much more programmable. So if you're looking to automate red teaming and things like that, you're going to be able to do it neatly with that.
And Lori, you're kind of dead on about, content management systems like WordPress, for example. They're effectively taking well-ordered data and then they're presenting it as a web page or a web experience to an end customer. And so you're changing from structured to slightly unstructured. But it's interesting. We've used those CSMs to kind of create the way to manage content, but for the most part, we strap on a set of user experience modules and things like that make it unstructured again, that make it hard to navigate, or the things that make it pleasant for a human to navigate are the things that make it annoying for a site crawler to navigate.
Hey, isn't that do we, then there's the other question of do we even
why don't we just do it to the CSM? And I'm sure you could. The thing is, tools like Firecrawl are able to serve the lowest common denominator and everything above it, right? Well, so if a site is unplanned and unstructured, it can do that. If a site is on WordPress behind a very slick navigable float UI, it can navigate that. It can do all sorts of different things. And so it's an easy one-size-fits-all solution for getting things ready for an LLM, which is pretty cool.
Right, but you could also use it to create perhaps the JSON LD version of a page that has been recommended for consumption in the first place. And if it's just made available, right, then it doesn't have to actually go and parse it, screams, all the, that, what it's doing. And then it can just grab that file directly, which is going to be faster, and you have more control over what it's actually reading, because that's one of the things that shifts from humans are primarily, the raters of content to now we're using ChatGPT to search. We want to make sure that the information it's getting about our product, our business, our services is accurate. And one way to do that is to pre-position the content that is more consumable to it, rather than allow something like Firecrawl to go out and just grab it and go, oh, that means bad. And now you're stuck with that.
Yeah. It is funny to think about this. The old hotness used to be RSS feeds. How do you get a knowledge of what the updated content on a site is without having to navigate the entirety of the site. You would actually hand prepare an RSS feed. Back in the day, that's how it was done. And so Firecrawl effectively allows you to crawl an entire site and create effectively a chunked feed of data and analyze it based on the newness of it. You can actually order it by that, which this is basically a replacement for RSS feeds for LLMs. I didn't think of it that
Well,
way, but it sort of is.
It's the reader.
Yeah.
It's the RSS reader, not because there were things that
Correct.
generated RSS automatically. There were plugins and there were scripts, and right, Aubrey?
Oh yeah, plenty. And it's funny. I find myself thinking about the fact that we three have talked about a time when these models end up going and doing the work for us. Like, there's a time in the morning when you get up and say, hey, model, whatever, what's the news? And it just reads off the stuff that it crawled for you. Like that kind of thing. Like I can see coming. So to your point, do we need websites anymore? I kind of wonder, are these things just going to read the websites we need and then proxy that information to us? And if so, what happens when your model is alignment switched or something like that, and suddenly it turns into a murder bot and feeds you the wrong news?
If we're talking
It's
about some negatives, there are definitely some negatives with Firecrawl. So
Right.
there definitely is an implication here. Right now, Firecrawl is kind of in what I would call going through that transition that every open source project goes through when they're trying to really knuckle down and make some money on the business. They've kind of let the self-hosted mechanism for Firecrawl atrophy the documentation. Users are reporting the documentation's not being kept up well.
It's bad.
And they're trying to force people over to a cloud-delivered solution, which is very easy to implement and operate. I will give it that. But it also means that when you tell it to go browse sites, when you're asking for certain site crawls, and perhaps you have sites that are authenticated in context, and you want to crawl those, the service is going to have to do that on your behalf, and you're going to have to give it the credential and access to do that. I myself, I really prefer, especially where data elements are being accessed and boiled down for LLM consumption. I like to have more control over the process, and I like a self-hosted option. So if there is anything to critique, it's the fact that self-hosted AGPL product is being pushed aside for something that the company is going to make money on. Now, companies can make money, but in this particular case, I think there are privacy and security concerns.
So I mean, the reason we wanted to talk about it, I mean, aside from being cool and interesting and whatnot, is that organizations have to be considering how are agents and AI consuming their information.
Yeah.
And this is one way to to format it or get in an idea of it and whatnot, as opposed to, I don't know, scraping other people's sites, which, I don't really have a need for that. And I don't think that's necessarily the best use, but you do have to have some tool or some way to understand what's the best way to present my site and my information to this new class of user, if you will. And this is a good way to do it, is run it against your site and say, well, what are you doing to my information so you can better serve the content directly to the AI rather than letting someone else use a tool like this.
Yeah. And I mean, how will they simply monetize that data too? I mean, take a look at, they could very easily aggregate, hey, these are all the sites we've had to look up, and
yeah.
I don't like that.
Yeah.
Well,
yeah.
one of the things I'm taking away from this discussion for sure is that, it's good to do this yourself, if at all possible. And I mean that in two ways. Number one, you should probably not turn over the task of browsing all of the data on your site under an authenticated context to a service that you're not really sure about. Because it will browse everything and it will allocate everything. And so it's up to you to govern the usage of that data. The flip side of that, though, is if you already have the data in a structured format and it's simply being re-represented as a web page, for example, if you have something like WordPress backing the content, go get the data from that. Don't necessarily go through an intermediate service that browses the site. it'll be faster, it'll be more efficient, and it'll be better organized.
That's interesting because, and when you said that, I'm like, huh. I remember a stat, and I just looked it up. There was an estimate: 67% of the high quality top news sites, I don't know what they are, but they block access to AI models. And they just say your bots, your crawlers. No, you can't access our site, and that is increasingly a strategy, I guess, for sites whose primary product is information or news, right, is to just block the AI entirely. So, I mean, that is an option too. If you don't want your site crawled.
That is an excellent point. The first time I ever saw Firecrawl, the number one thing that I thought about it is, man, this is great for competitive research.
Yeah.
Going off and crawling all sorts of your competition sites and looking for data elements to feed in, so you can actually ask your LLM guided questions about what your competitors are up to versus what you are up to. That the being able to boil things down like that from the externally exposed public web content, this is invaluable for things like market research and competitive research. But it also comes with some drawbacks. The relative legality of sucking in an entire site. That sort of thing, I think is left as an exercise for the implementer, and people should consult their counsel before they do it.
Talk to a lawyer. That's what he means. Talk to a lawyer first.
I'm certainly going to keep using this thing. I can tell you that it's been invaluable. I think, though, to Joel's point, I really don't think we need to let these things just surf the web for us. I think that's a bad plan. Just because I still don't trust the alignment thing at all with models. But aside from that, I think it would be nice if we could find a way to put pressure on them to bring back a more open source, host it yourself option, because there's something really nice and neat about bringing up a container in your environment and, hey, it's there. I can use that now and destroy it when I'm done. I don't have to give anyone else my data. I'd much prefer that.
Yeah. And, if you're running self-hosted, one of the huge benefits of this is the freshness of the content that your LLM can ingest and understand. It's very difficult to go back and retrain something using a large corpus of information. It's a little difficult to set up a RAG scenario where it pulls in content ad hoc and selects things from it. But you can actually create elements with Firecrawl that are very ingestible, that are fully up to date, and it really does improve your own implementation of LLM for your purpose. So that's great. So I sincerely hope they do some more work on the self-hosted option. I love it.
Yeah, it's important. You have to do this. I mean, that's it. You mentioned the competitive use, but I mean, just in terms of the percentage of people that are exclusively using AI to do searches for things like compare products so that I can actually decide which one to buy for my business. Now, that's a legitimate use case of doing this kind of research. And they are doing it, which means that you need to be delivering content in a way that AI can understand and actually present your pros and cons, whatever, in the best light, or you're going to end up being on the bottom of those lists, because increasingly people are like, why should I do an RFP and then have to read through them when I can just have AI do it for me?
Sure.
So this is an important part to get right. And if Firecrawl helps you understand how to construct that, then it's a great tool, and you should, definitely check it out and use it.
It does.
Yeah. Maybe that's one of the takeaways, right? This is something you need to be aware of and do. So, definitely check it out. Even if it's not the whole tool you want to use, it's open source. There are probably good pieces and sections within it that will help you achieve what you need to achieve in order to make sure you don't fall behind competitively as everyone starts moving to, let's have AI help me decide what to buy and where to go.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. I'd also add that one of the takeaways is, if you're going to use a system that does web crawling to help out an LLM, create your plan of attack first. Don't just allow ad hoc use of this. It's the old adage that garbage in, garbage out. It still applies to LLMs. And one thing Firecrawl does not necessarily do for you is it doesn't necessarily deduplicate. It doesn't really help you with your prompt engineering. It just gives you better, cleaner data sources. It's up to you to ensure the accuracy.
Garbage in, garbage out reminds me of Grok. Oh, sorry, that was a hot mic. No, I I wanted to say, as far as takeaways are concerned, I was gonna say I love this utility's ability to take unplanned data, as it was said here, but things from social media, YouTube, LinkedIn, et cetera, look at it in easy to manage chunks and make up things like mailing lists or whatever kind of bullet points. In-depth stuff I wouldn't trust it with, but that's not my takeaway. My takeaway is it's integrated cleanly into N8N. And that is important. If you're not using N8N, man, you should be. I love it. It makes every task easier when you're talking about making agents and doing AI work for yourself. So that is one great thing about it, whether it's web hosted or not. I love the easy N8N integration.
Yeah.
Sounds like we need another episode just to talk about N8N and bring Aubrey back to talk about it, since he's so excited. I'm sure Joel has already used it, dissected it, and has very strong opinions about it. Am I wrong?
No opinions whatsoever.
Ooh, okay. You're not allowed to look at it until we have this episode. I want you cold when we do that, because we'll have to come back because we are out of time today. Sorry. I know we could go on and on. So we're just going to say that's a wrap for Pop Goes the Stack this time. If you enjoyed the breakdown, subscribe, because the only thing scaling faster than Tech Hype is our snark. Yeah. See you next time.
Bye.
Bye.